Want to put your reader on the absolute edge of their seat, trembling to read more? Let's talk about building tension. Building tension is an important part of almost any book. You want to get the reader in the moment and really engaged with and invested in what's going on. So how do you achieve it? And how do you achieve the most extreme form of it, which is true scariness? Well, this is actually a topic that I did quite a bit of research on a couple of years ago for my own books. And so I have a couple of thoughts. And I do mean a couple because building tension boils down to two things: controlling the flow of information and keeping your reader in the present. Throughout this video, I'm going to be talking especially about two pieces of media which do this wonderfully. The Korean horror film A Tale of Two Sisters and Jonathan Stroud's The Screaming Staircase. Although I would like to put in a good word for Alexei Payhov's The Shadow Prowler, which has an extremely tense, haunted sequence near the beginning of it. Let's start then with keeping your reader in the present. And here I'm actually going to do something a little bit unusual. I'm going to use a positive example as a negative example, which is to say, Tale of Two Sisters. You see, this movie does everything right. It has the slow boil, tension build, and the viewer should be on the edge of their seat and should genuinely be scared. I picked the movie specifically because I was only looking at movies rated PG-13 and below. I didn't want to be scared because I was in expectation of seeing something that would scar me for life. I want to be scared through genuine tension. Now, an acquaintance of mine said at the time, no, you have to see A Tale of Two Sisters. It's rated R, but it only really has PG-13 content. The R rating is for scariness. And so I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And so and she'd seen it 10 times, and she said she'd been scared of her witch each time. And so I was prepared for this to be a really scary film. And even though I was studying scariness and tension at the time, I don't like being afraid. So I sat with my dog on my lap. And whenever things started to get really tense, I would look down at her, and there she would be, snoozing peaceably and not scared at all. And because I saw she wasn't scared, and she's the sort of dog that if someone comes through the door, she'll bark often. And if she's not barking, if she's not alarmed, if she's just snoozing, I know that it's not real and it's not actually scary. In other words, I cheated as a viewer. I used an external force to keep myself grounded, to keep myself from being too pulled into the story. And that kept me from being, well, more than a little afraid anyway. Being pulled out of the story, being distracted, being taken out of the moment is precisely what you want to avoid as a writer. Of course, you can't avoid it 100% because for all you know, people may be sitting with their lapdogs on their laps, keeping themselves from being afraid. But there are a couple of tricks that you can use to keep people in the present. One of them is keep the scene going. I once read a book by an author who used to be very good. And the entire book went like this. We build up a scene to the tense point, and then we switch to the other characters, and we build up the scene to the tense point, and we switch back to the tense point of the original characters. But by this point, I was really invested in the other characters, and I no longer cared about that, and effectively killed the tension again and again and again. Instead, what you want to do is you want to stick with what's going on. Don't move to other characters. Don't move into a flashback. Don't start discussing something that is completely irrelevant to the scene. Now, you can have humor. The Screaming Staircase is a very, very funny book in addition to being an extremely tense book. And at the most tense moment of the entire book, just about, the characters think it's maybe they can relax a little bit, and they start bantering a little bit, and this gives it a sort of nightmarish feel because our protagonist and the reader knows it's not over, it's getting worse, and now you're distracted, something horrible is going to happen. And this way Stroud uses humor to actually increase the effectiveness, but it's humor in the moment to do with the characters and what's going on. It's not, let's discuss this unrelated thing, and so it doesn't take the reader out of the moment. So that's the first thing. Stay focused. The second element is controlling the flow of information. And oddly enough, this can take two completely opposite routes and still be very effective. Which is to say, you can tell the reader very nearly everything, or you can tell the reader practically nothing. And they're equally effective, you just have to do it properly. I should mention here that, generally speaking, if you have multiple extremely tense sequences within your book, you'll put the tell the reader practically nothing in the beginning and the tell the reader everything near the end. Tale of Two Sisters, and actually also Shadow Prowler, are, well, no, Shadow Prowler is more in the middle. So Tale of Two Sisters is a great example of telling the reader practically nothing. Or the Watcher in this case. The Watcher doesn't even know entirely what's real. The Watcher doesn't know what's going on. The Watcher doesn't know who the bad guy is or why these haunting type events, actually all three of these examples are haunting type tension. Clearly I find that very effective. The Watcher has no real conception. Even at the end of the movie, it's not entirely clear what was going on, although you do find out a whole lot more. What makes it very effective is the Watcher's base knowledge. We know that when a scary dead thing underneath the sink tries to grab your ankle, that's not good. We know that when people are acting in ways that people don't normally act, that's not good. In Shadow Prowler, we know that in a place where everything is dead, the child's crying in the second floor of the building is not good. We don't know what that child is. We don't know what the ghost in Tale of Two Sisters is. We don't know what's going on. But instinctively, from our own experience and from seeing other forms of media, we know it's not good. And this not good but not understanding keeps us on the edge of our seats. On the opposite end of the spectrum is the epic, incredibly tense, scary sequence that takes up the last quarter or so of the Screaming Staircase. Because in this case, we know very nearly everything of what's going on. Not only have we been with these ghost hunters throughout the entire book, and we've gotten lots of information about ghosts, and about haunting, and how you defeat them, and what the different types are, and what some of their different abilities are. We've also been given specific information about the house that our characters are about to enter. In fact, the book does something I love, which is it tells the reader everything that's going to happen in such a way that they don't believe it, don't understand it, and it doesn't help them. Right before we enter this haunted house, the clearly not reliable caretaker takes her characters around and points at all the different windows and is like, yeah, a group of nuns died there, and monks died there, and yeah, there was a bloodbath in that room, and it's clear this guy is crazy. Our characters don't believe him. You, the reader, don't believe him. But you're told all these different things. And then you go into the house and you start suspecting that they're all true. To some extent. But there are still things you don't know. You don't know the specific examples of where the hauntings are going to appear. You don't know specifically what type of ghost will be where. You're given a lot of clues to this. We have things like the temperature dropping and just the emotional atmosphere changing, which these symbols say, they signal something is coming, but from which direction is it coming and how is it going to manifest? And in this way, Stroud controls the information in such a way that you know all the stakes in detail and the awful things that are going to happen, but not the exact details of when or where they're going to happen. And that makes it just as effective as knowing practically nothing. Before I leave you, there is one last thing that I want to say, and actually I will link to a blog post on this topic below. which is, in the case of Stroud and other effective stories in which the reader knows almost everything, they still don't know quite everything. And what they do know and what they will learn fits with what has gone before. There's one book especially actually that I'm thinking of that had an immensely tense build for the first half, which followed the you know practically nothing side of the equation. And then right smack in the middle it had a big reveal. And the big reveal was really stupid. I mean, as a reader, I was completely taken out of the present. So definitely not taken out of the present to be like, you're kidding me, that's really? It's aliens, Noah's Ark. Are you joking? And took through the entire rest of the book. I now know what's going on, and I'm too busy thinking about how stupid it is to be scared anymore. So, read that blog post on big reveals and whether you should or should not do them, and how you should or should not do them. Control your flow of information, and keep your reader focused. Good luck, everyone.